So then, we are back with more understandings from the Renewed Covenant, from the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation is from the original manuscripts of the Hebrews of old, from the time of the prophets of Israel, when Yahweh was then in charge of the nation, teaching the people, showing them the holy prophecies, showing them also to return to their understandings of the Torah and being obedient and loyal. A lot of these prophecies, they are related also with the time of the end. We find the Messiah also reading portions of Yeshayahu relating to himself, where he read then the portion stating then that Yahweh had sent him. He was the anointed person sent from heaven in order to enlighten the eyes and also the lives of those who did not have enough knowledge of the Torah. Every time you hear the word reaches or reach, it is related with the knowledge of the Torah and its completion. This is what it means. Every time he was using parables related with riches, he was filtering the people out. So then the people were excusing themselves because they were having so much focus upon riches rather than his presence in understanding the Holy Torah. So then these days we are truly living during the times of restoration. War is prohibited because restoration and war, they don't fit. Wars are truly prohibited as per scripture, as per prophecy. However, are the people then going to be obedient? We understand China is going to be the leading nation of the trade of the end. There is no way out of it. So nations emerging, the best and wise deal for them is being acquainted with the system of China. They're going to put out a very friendly usage type of trade language system via computer. Now you have to put your heads to work. We are no longer living during the time of Israel when the prophets were around. Are we? No, we are not. Are we going to be bound by the laws then, working on the land with the regular materials? No. The time has modernized. We must understand the concept, yet modernized. So we are speaking of computer system. As then when the computers were designed, then the idea was each person of each home would have a computer to get online. At the end, the nation trade of the end, China, is using precisely the system of the computer, so each person from any country can do trade with her. Though China is led by men, for some reason they consider motherland. Figure why. So then, you have the understanding what it means then in the future, people doing trade with China. The time of the junkies is gone, ended in 5009. We are in 6012. 6012. So then, the final time of the prophecy given to the Gentiles as rulership of this earth in terms of secular trade system, government, secular government, ends in 6031. Because the Messiah was born then in 3999. He spent then a couple days with the Samaritans, 4031. Then you have 2,000 years later, you have 6031. Then you understand from Revelation the time where then his people would be in charge of the directives of heaven from the holy cities. They did for 1,000 years. From the time of Yohanan until 1009, you find his people then giving directives. The second 1,000 was the time of deceit. So then you have the 1,000, then you have the other 1,000. And then you have the 2,000 years then on top of these related with Gentile ruling of the earth, secularly speaking. Then you have to link up with Daniel. Then we are speaking of statesperson, stateship, government, secular of the world. Then you link up with Daniel. Daniel was a statesperson working for a pagan, secular king. The time of the end, the nations would not adhere to each other. He was speaking the system of Nimrod. He tried to unify the whole people of the world to go up to heaven because he had an idea what heaven was like. It was a fraud. It was a lie and didn't work. So then Yahweh had to come over, and that's why the Babel Tower. They began to babble around. They didn't understand each other anymore. Thus, 70 languages. So then the nations of Europe, they thought they could do a replay of Nimrod's, and didn't work, did it? Daniel was there. It's not going to work if they try to adhere to each other. They didn't listen, they went ahead with it and didn't work. So then we understand for sure, absolutely sure, 100% sure the year is going to break. Because what they thought was God leading them, in fact, was a lie. And then Daniel already had predicted. So it is breaking. And then the country is very weak in the economy of the euro. They are going to have to try to have a deal with China. They are the least expensive to get materials from in exchange for their own natural resources, so they can work out a deal. And same understanding with those people over there in the Middle East. A lot of those countries, they are busted. They have to make a deal with China. And as they do so, then the cargoes are placed on the ocean. They make then a convoy out of those, military escorted, deliver the cargo. Thus, then, we find the entire Middle East being ruled by trade. Thus, peace is served. These steps of formation is from heaven. It's not mine or anybody else. So then, the people of Israel, obviously, they are going to be disobedient. In terms of the nation, secular nation of Israel over there and at the Middle East, they are going to remain disobedient. However, the cities are returning. Then those who are saved in the Messiah, the Hebraic people saved and they believe in the Messiah, and the Messiah told them, go around the world, form holy cities. And the first city, as we understand of this time, is going to be in Congo. Read the scripture. He tabernacled, tabernacle beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. You have to put your heads to work. Our country then, the best for us truly is maintaining this government as it is. Because we know the future already. We know China is going to take over and no nation is going to be against China. Either the nations can ruin themselves and then after being busted, China yet comes over. It's a lost war. The countries must retrieve and then rebuild. So then, when the nations, they come to their senses, in other words, when they understand the future, they begin to act as such. They begin to be acquainted with this new Chinese system of computerized trade. Then a person from any country with a regular computer can start doing trade. That's why then it's so prosperous. And then you read in the 8th chapter, the 3rd part of the ships, then you recognize, oh boy, China is truly leading. 10 chapters later, you find the whole world doing trade with her. Meaning China. China is then, though led by men mostly, they consider it motherland. And then, the place beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. We understand our country then, we can compete with the manufacturing of China. We would be really stupid if we can believe then we can take on China as far as manufacturing. It's ridiculous. Won't ever. Our only choice is then investing in high technological equipment, such as cars, electric, very high advanced. So then the trade of high technological technologies can be then developed in our country. For these you have to have rare materials, rare minerals. Where do you find them? Mostly in Congo. So as we retrieve then for rebuilding, then we make a deal with Congo. Then precisely in Congo the first holy city is going to be built. Read the scripture. Try to understand the times and seasons. So then the whole rebuilding of Africa is not going to be because only of our presence over there, because we want to get minerals from them. It's because a holy city is going to be there, and then Africa is going to prosper. But then the plan is laid out perfectly as you can ever understand. It's absolutely crystal clear. The nations can screw up themselves further, yet Yahweh has His way. They can rebel, being stupid, and go ahead, do their own junk from the time of the junkies, the last 1,000 years. They can end up joining up and junking themselves. They're going to be busted, yet China comes over and takes over. So not only they have to pick themselves up, they have then repair the junk they have made for themselves. Yet China goes straight over them. As we understand, then the holy cities, they only speak in Hebrew. They are from the set apart from the time of Moses. They have Hebraic culture only. And they are only told then to exercise their functions. They have to be sent in the many names of Yahweh. And they are not going to be teaching people from A to Z of His holy laws in their own language. They have to do on their own. If you think the Hebraic people are coming out of their holy cities and teach you the Torah, no, they are going only to function as per the directive of Ruach HaKodesh. The rest of the study you have to do on your own. And tongues, interpretation of tongues, it's only used when Yahweh is speaking through them for your benefit. But He's not going to take you by the hand. You have to study on your own. Thus, a radio station in the area would be very wise, and somebody that knows the scripture to teach you in English, so then you can understand what goes on. While the city then is developed, our country is being rebuilt, Africa is starting rebuilding, and then the nations are being prospering. Our country, the only way out of it is rebuilding and doing precisely what the President was speaking of. Then high technological equipment, and then studies of other technologies built in our country because we built them. Those are then obviously new technologies and high quality. We have to have special materials. Coltan and then other types of minerals to do this job. Otherwise it doesn't get done. And then as we rebuild, we have to make a deal with China and then pay our dues. While our nation then is rising from the big plunge we had to plunge ourselves in because the previous government, they're not paying the debts. They were piling them up. And they thought evil of the president only because he's half a black. They were thinking, oh, he's a half a black, doesn't know how to do the job. Let's put him in charge only for a term. So he pays the debt, then we put the blame on him for spending so much. And then the other group would take over, and then the 40 years, then they would blame them forever. And it didn't work as much as they thought. They caught the scheme. Now the problem is, what they thought evil of him is returning to them who started. Because the only way out of our country in terms of manufacturing is starting their new technologies, high technological equipment, you have to have rare metals. Some people don't even know what a coltan is. Some people don't study. Some people in this country, they are like ostriches. They don't read the news, they don't understand politics, and they stick their heads in the mud, thinking then the problems are going to be solved. No, they have to politicize themselves or politicize themselves. The reason why we are making this deal, so then the president stays in charge, and then we order rare materials from Congo, while the holy city over there is being built. Then when you read Yeshayahu, the rivers then over there and beyond the land of Cush, why is it stayed in the land of Cush? Because during the time of Solomon, Shlomo, nations of the south would go north to do trade with Israel. And the people of Africa, they were extremely honest. They were very faithful people. But then the nation of Israel went to heck then afterwards. Then the whole situation went to heck, or went unrepaired. But then the Africans retained the strong character of doing trade properly. They're honest. And because they are so much honest, then Yahweh decided to tabernacle amongst the fierce. Because they have no crap. They understand. Can't lie around that area. So that's the plan. No way out of it. Try to understand the scripture, understand the prophecies, the layers, and then the seasons and time in our own economical problem. We can't compete with China. And forget it. You can't go down with the labor so much that it seems not realistic. But we can invest in other technologies that are much higher. Then it can develop so much to make a price nice, so then the market can be increased. To do this, you have to have rare metals, or it doesn't get done. Such as standardizing the electric system for electric cars, rechargers, combining ATM machines and rechargers in single unit. These are technologies that must be implemented. You have to have rare materials. To begin to link up scripture, what's going on, the holy city, and then from this city, many other cities are going to be built. And the city over there is going to be absolutely as during the time of Yohanan. Yohanan was in a city model. You know, the Megillas nicely organized in times and seasons and prophecies. Those are returning. Because from then on, the students that came through the city, boy, they had a real teaching. They did understand the Torah, the prophets, the writings, then the renewed covenant, vengeance, the whole 9 yards. In other words, they did understand precisely. As far as the secular rulership of the Gentiles, they can bust themselves further. Or they can realize the situation and go along with it because that's the best. It's a gift from Yahweh. You can come up with a higher idea. But then people must not return to the junkies. The returning of the junkies are only going to be enforced when the bomb then explodes. Not for quite some time. Until then, we have to get to work.